Hello, my fellow nerds, and welcome to the Nerd Empire. I hope you all are having a fantastic day today, and I hope you all will enjoy today's reaction video. With that being said, let's get right into it, shall we? Alright, this next one is by Endymion TV, and it is called Resident Evil Requiem Just Exposed the Dead Internet. So let us see exactly what about the dead internet that this game has exposed.
Something really weird is happening, and I don't see enough people talking about it, but it not only shows how far gone a lot of the games industry has become over the last few years alone, but how the future of game critique and how we access information could be changed forever if things keep going like this. So I want to talk about Resident Evil Requiem, but more importantly, how that whole concept, the whole dead internet theory thing. In case you somehow don't know what that even means, let me explain that first. You see, the dead internet theory is a conspiracy theory that claims that since around 2016 or so, that the entire internet is now just primarily full of bot accounts and content that is manipulated by algorithm tools instead. The idea is that these bots are being used to control the populace and reduce the amount of interactions that each real human being has with one another. Have you ever gone on Twitter or like wherever else and just see random accounts with like 2 followers trying to argue you or bait you or something? Chances are those people are bots. They're all designed to make you rage bait into what they want you to do in the first place. Basically, you're falling for a trap is what it is. So now that you know what the theory is, we kind of just saw it.
That is an interesting theory. I mean, because there are a lot of bot accounts that are just posting random shit and trying to get, clicks and engagement, and they're just basically engagement farming or rage baiting.
Happen in real time, and it's becoming more and more alarmingly present as time proceeds. You see, the dead internet theory is not really a theory. In my opinion, it's actually real, and not even the video games industry can escape from it. So what does this have to do with Resident Evil? Well, Requiem came out, it did gangbusters, people loved the game, and it scored very high on Metacritic, which is great for them. However, what was really weird was that one review that I saw was suspiciously out of place. It was this one from the vtuber.com. I brought this up in a video about a week ago, but the more I looked into it, man, the weirder it got. So here's the image that videogamer.com used for their Requiem review. Immediately, you can tell that it's AI generated. That's not even Grace Ashcroft, and there's no zombies that look like the zombies in the background of.
Oh yeah, that's that is even, yeah, you can easily tell that's AI. All the bot posting definitely puts a damper on people wanting to interact with posts that even give a hint of bot language or anything. Well, what can we really do, Nightway?
That image that are in the game either. Weirder still is the tagline, Capcom's gore-soaked series finale, which also doesn't make sense because Requiem is not a series finale of the series at all. It's very obvious that Resident Evil as a franchise will continue, especially given how high those sales numbers were in the first place.
I've always had the thought that if Resident Evil was ever going to officially end, they would have to go either one of two ways. One, either all of the main big characters, Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, Jill Valentine, Ada Wong, and Claire Redfield, all of them would have to either retire or they would have to die. Because once all of them are gone, that should be the official end of Resident Evil. That's how it should officially end. Either they all die or they all retire. Because they're, too old.
Anyway, the entire thing stinks already. None of this makes any sense. Even the opening paragraph feels suspicious, which says this: Resident Evil Requiem is not just a victory lap for Capcom's survival horror dynasty. It is a chainsaw-revving, blood-soaked testament to why we love getting scared stupid. It is the sort of finale that effectively grabs the franchise by the lapels, shakes it violently, and demands you acknowledge just how far it has come since the tank-controlled days of 1996. While other series limp toward their conclusions, Resident Evil 9 arrives with the confidence of a tyrant smashing through a brick wall. Again, Video Gamer keeps referring to Requiem as a finale, when it isn't that at all. Then there's the final verdict, as you can see here. So Video Gamer gave Requiem...
Hell, the way Requiem ended, it indicates that there's going to be another one.
A 9 out of 10. A great score. Yet again, the side info there is really weird. They talk about how you should...
Yeah, for me personally, I would give Requiem a 9 out of 10. I can't give anything a 10 out of 10 because that would imply that it is perfect and there is absolutely nothing wrong in any way, shape, or form. I can't give anything that because there's no such thing as perfection. The highest I can give anything is a 9.9, and that's it. But damn, does this game come close to perfection.
Check out the pre-order bonuses, which is odd, and then at
I had the only problems I had was the audio desync, but I think that was mainly because of my computer being older. I wish it would too, Depths, but it doesn't like to do that. I don't know why.
The end there, it says that the game is the finale that the fans deserve. Again, this is not the finale, so what are they doing there? Then you look at the author of this game review, which is this guy here named Brian Marigold. So this is Brian Marigold, who is apparently a video game analyst who likes to cover new technologies, whatever that means. Even weirder still, if you click Brian's profile on the website, you then get a better picture of his supposed background. As you can see here where I highlighted, Brian is apparently a lifelong gamer who loves open world games and multiplayer titles. In case you haven't figured it out yet, the truth is that Brian Marigold never played Resident Evil, and he's never been a lifelong gamer. It's all because Brian Marigold doesn't exist. His entire profile is AI. In fact, all of VideoGamer.com's supposed journalists who work on that site churning out articles daily are also, in fact, not real people. You see, originally VideoGamer.com had a thriving website with a YouTube presence as well, where they would have real people making real content for you to watch on various game topics. For whatever reason, Video Gamer was eventually gutted from the top down. Everybody was let go from the site, and then it was sold off to a Maltese company named Clickout Media. And before anyone says this is an anti-AI video, no, I'm not hating on AI here, okay? But the ethics involved in this story are kind of crazy, so I gotta speak on it, so just allow me to. So this new owner is a company with heavy ties to things like cryptocurrency and gambling, and now the entire website is being ran by bots. Weirder still is that this review for Resident Evil Requiem actually affected Capcom's latest game's Metacritic score too. Obviously in a positive way, because again it was a 9 out of 10, but upon finding out that Video Gamer was not being run by real people, Metacritic removed that review from their website and banned VideoGamer.com's contributions to any other game review they post in the future because again, they're not real. For example, here's one of the editors of VideoGamer.com, Shooter Orson, who's apparently a biker enthusiast that works at Video Gamer and lives in Portland, but again, he doesn't...
The way this thing is, it doesn't even seem like a real person is running that page. He's a gamer, writer, biker enthusiast, post my thoughts on science, technology, and video games. I edit for a site called...
exist either. But what made the Resident Evil Requiem review even more suspicious was that it was a review released when the embargo lifted that detailed what was in the game. However, the problem was that obviously they didn't play Requiem because this reviewer never existed anyways. This meant instead that Video Gamer's review of Requiem was an AI generated script composing of every other games industry article on the game prior to the game's official release, meaning that nothing that they said in the review was actually accurate because the information they pulled from was not from articles where they played the full game or had reviewed it obviously. One look at the videogamer.com's review of
Only thing I've given 9.9 out of 10 to is Dot Pockets, our seal of approval. One, because need more seals. I actually have that in the lineup for reactions. We're not going to be able to get to it today because it's almost 6. But it is in the lineup for reactions.
Requiem immediately starts to show the cracks. Like, let me read you this paragraph which says, "The genius here lies in the duality. Playing as Leon Kennedy feels like slipping into an old, trustworthy leather jacket, specifically one armed with a tactical shotgun and a bad attitude. His segments are pure third-person catharsis, refining the parry and kick rhythm of the Resident Evil 4 remake into a violent ballet that rewards aggression. Then the game rudely shoves you into the perspective of Grace Ashcroft and the power fantasy evaporates. Grace's sections shift to first-person dread, evoking the raw helplessness of early survival horror in a way that feels beautifully cruel. It's really interesting how the review claims that Leon's gameplay is only in third person, while Grace's is only in first person, which is true to a degree that those are the default viewpoints for each."
I think when it comes to playing as Grace, the game is best. You get the best experience playing first person, and when it comes to Leon, you get the best experience playing third person. But that's just what I think, and I mean, you get a better horror experience in first person with Grace.
Each character in the
I don't know about that. Ashley's new segment in RE4 remake was pretty horrifying.
game. However, if this were a real review, they would have mentioned how Capcom has now allowed you to alternate between that third or first person view for each character from the settings, which means you can play it however you want to. Which again, Video Gamer here does not claim that because they're basing this review on the impressions from other websites. It gets worse though, because this is the paragraph that immediately follows the one I just read before, which reads, "It is a stark design philosophy that honestly shouldn't work, yet it creates a rhythm of tension and release that is masterful. Frankly, switching between head-popping action and hiding in cupboards gave us whiplash, but the good kind. You aren't just surviving, you are learning two entirely different languages of fear." Okay, so first of all, you can't hide in any cupboards in Requiem at all. In fact, you can't even hide in lockers either. I think like the only...
You can't really hide in anything when it comes to Requiem. You have to hide under stuff or behind things. You can't hide in anything. There's nothing to hide in. The moments where Grace was tripping every third step trying to run from the light averting monster does raise the blood pressure in both anger and fear. I like the first person because when it comes to running away, you can always hear them, but you can never tell how close they are to you. Gotta hide from Ariana Grande. She hears all, sees all.
hiding place, I guess, maybe is like under a bed when you play a flashback sequence, but that's later on in the game. And mentioning that the Stark design philosophy, as Brian Marigold puts it, that
is this reality's way of telling us slowly we are all in a simulation? Yeah, probably, Nightway.
shouldn't work but does, that also makes no sense. Like, what's Stark design philosophy? You mean the stark difference between playing a Resident Evil game and also a Resident Evil game? Okay, sure, Leon's gameplay harkens more to Resi 4 or 5, I get that, while Grace is more in line with Resi 7 or 8, but those are still from the same franchise. There's no difference in a sense, they are both valid. Again, it comes off very weird because it is, but it somehow just keeps getting worse because as seen here, they then label this next next part as Leon's Last Dance, which makes no sense because this game is not the final game to feature Leon at all. Without delving into spoilers, let's just say that Capcom is obviously not done with Leon to any capacity following the events of Requiem for good reason.
I think Leon has another good 2 or 3 games in him before he's finally too old to be doing this.
Not to mention, at the end of that same paragraph, they claim that the game features a chainsaw cult. What? Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is never once the word spoken that there is a cult of zombies in Requiem that worship chainsaws of all things. Yes, okay, yeah, there are sequences with chainsaws, I get that, specifically in the hospital as Leon, and again in a gas station later on in the game, but they're not cults.
I think you run into the chainsaw zombies maybe, if I remember correctly, I think there's only like 3 or 4 of them throughout the entire time you play as Leon. If this is a simulation, can I have a reboot, please? Wait, Leon's not retiring? My man is 50. What is he going to be next? Roundhouse kicking zombies at the retirement home? I don't know, probably.
They're just zombies. As seen here in that final paragraph of the review, the so-called Brian Marigold doesn't even cover anything really. He just says that the game looks nice and that it stutters on the Switch 2 apparently. The entire review, which is a few short paragraphs at best, doesn't talk about anything besides surface level details. There's no mentions of the boss fights, Grace's blood mechanic, which is really important, or even Leon's experience system that he gets later on either. Nothing that actually defines the game.
I really liked the blood mechanic. That was a great addition to the game. Especially those injection things.
Is spoken about because, again, this is not a real review, but it is being pushed as one, and that is actually crazy. The only other review this Brian guy did for Video Gamer was this one on God of War Sons of Sparta. Interestingly, even the review's titles have similar used words too. God of War here is blood-soaked, while the Resident Evil one is gore-soaked. Yeah, we can tell which prompts.
Yeah, it worked on the chef and Chunk. Although Chunk, I think you needed like 3 or 4 hemolytic injectors, but the chef you only needed 1.
Are being used behind the scenes now, can't we?
Although if you wanted, you can use that blind zombie. All you had to do was throw empty glass bottles. So if you threw one at Chunk and the blind zombie hit Chunk, it would have killed him in 1 hit.
Entire thing, it comes off as weird, and the gamer.com, as also seen here, confirms that apparently Google has removed videogamer.com from their search engines when it comes to reviews, at least, because they're not using real people to do them anymore. This isn't the only website that has done this, by the way. I mean, The Escapist, which used to have people like Yahtzee Khrushchev, Zero Punctuation there. If you don't know, they laid off everybody there like a few years ago, right? The bulk of The Escapist then went off to make Second Wind, which is really, let's be honest, only being held together on surprisingly by Yahtzee Khrushchev's contributions to that channel, but that's not really surprising. Anyways, weirdly enough though, if you go to the Escapist YouTube channel right now, which has 1 million subscribers and then some, they are now only churning out, as you can see here, AI generated thumbnails and videos about gambling to their YouTube users. The Escapist is even using AI images of streamers like XQC and Trainwreck in their thumbnails in order to lure people in and click. That's a whole other website completely also replaced by AI journalists that only exists now to funnel their readers to their gambling website alternatives where that real money gets made for them. Essentially, this means that games like Requiem are also being used as Trojan horses by these people to lure anyone they can into consuming these websites' content only to, push them into gambling and crypto, which is really weird and creepy if you ask me. Then there's Tom Ori, that's one of the co-founders of VideoGamer.com back in the day. He had this to say about how the entire games industry basically blacklisted the website he he founded due to what it represents now. Here's what he said. I remember making Video Gamer Pro G back then, sat in the tiniest bedroom in a university house share in Brighton. It was my entire life for a very long time. I hope people remember it for what it meant to people and not the abomination it is today. Then you have Lewis White, that was another editor who worked at videogamer.com back in the day, who also recently tweeted this, which confirms that Google has actually de-indexed the website completely from their search engines. Which you need to realize how bad that is to happen to you. This means that video...
You know how bad you have to be for Google itself and other search engines to delete you out of their search? You know how much you have to fuck up? I mean, I know Google has gotten rid of some things, but you have to really fuck up for search engines to delete you out of their search engine.
Gamer as a website can no longer show up on any search engines when it comes to trending topics or anything else involving SEO or search engine optimization, in case you don't know. This means that the only way to access the website now is to specifically look it up directly via Google. Otherwise, you're not going to find it. Was this because of the Resident Evil Requiem fake review? According to Lewis White, as you can see here, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Although the company that runs and owns Video Gamer now has allegedly, according to Lewis, been in trouble for a while now with regulators already, which, gee, I wonder why. Meaning that the hammer was going to fall one way or another eventually, I guess, but also as seen here. Videogamer.com was still releasing content, although not nearly as frequently as it once was. It looks like the last time they released actual news was on about March 5th or March 6th, 2026, which likely coincides with the time period of when they got removed from the search engines too, which means the moment they got ousted as effectively being ran by bots, whoever, I guess, is running the website behind the scenes by, like, you know, a human capacity, obviously immediately stopped the farming of the content because it would not show up anymore. One of Video Gamer's last reviews were for Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. As you can see here, they gave it a 9 out of 10, with the only negative being its premium price point, which doesn't make sense because the game is $20. That's not a premium price point. Premium price is what AAA games cost today, which is usually $70 American. So calling this remaster premium doesn't feel right, but again, it's written by, oh, look at that, the Shooter Orson guy again. Remember the guy who's apparently a biker enthusiast? Like, what did we expect? It's kind of bleak to see, I gotta admit, and I completely understand why the various games journalists that are real people are freaking out about this, because it does threaten their positions. Because it would mean if this trend were to continue like it is now, then in the future of game...
Thank God, I am so thankful I missed that fucking spider part. I mean, I'll probably eventually I'll eventually stream the game again because it is just that fun of a game to play. I might do it on one difficulty higher, but I'm not sure.
criticism, so to speak, it wouldn't really belong to the people who even play games anymore, but just machines that are optimized for engagement metrics and such, and that's pretty much it. Of course, since this whole story circles around Metacritic as a website, that's actually why it's such a big deal in the first place, because you really need to understand the amount of power that Metacritic has as a website even to this day. Publishers are tracking that website obsessively. Developers' bonuses even are tied to the numbers attached to the games that they worked years on too. Studios, they have been shut down for missing the higher scores because it then leads to lower sales, which obviously just makes everything go down. Like, the entire review ecosystem has been warped around the existence of Metacritic, but with the emergence of, let's just call them AI journalists, that is now threatening another thing that these games journalists worship too, which is what I can only really call access journalism. You know, getting to go to the preview events that help them shape the narratives, getting those review copies sent if they are favorable to those publishers in the past, and then some. You see, for years already, the entire review process was already questionable because it was really hard to believe that game reviewers actually cared about the games that they played or received for free. Like, I'm still halfway convinced that most of them don't even beat the games they review these days either, which is why the existence...
Yeah, these game reviewers, I swear, like, they play like maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and I'm being generous with that, of the game, and then they write the review instead of playing the entire game. It's like, how is anybody supposed to take your review in any sort of serious way if you never even played through the entirety of the game? Hell, you probably barely made it out of the fucking tutorial before you made your goddamn, review of the game. I can't really trust these reviewers. The only ones I can really trust are the ones that I see on Steam, because most of them they actually fucking play the game. Yeah, I remember that, Happy. That was pretty horrible.
Of AI journalists are so threatening to these types. Because if this new way of access media, if you will, then becomes a trend, that these journalists will lose what they believe legitimizes their existence within the game space. And if these synthetic voices start influencing the scores of games, right, the algorithm will then start grading these games based on feedback that was written by non-human hands, which will then create a Pandora's box level feedback loop that will be hard to return from. The reason why this is scary is because this then leads to a sterile-like feedback loop of non-human generated content that ends up replacing real critiques. Like, AAA studios are already chasing approval metrics all of the time, Publishers, as we all know, they only really listen to the summaries that are given to them via these algorithms over real players' words already. But when these summaries are being handed down to the developers by the publishers to start adjusting their game design decisions based on what's been collected and presented.
At least with YouTube reviewers, you normally just see how much they play. Yeah. Yeah, I would probably be okay with a reviewer if they've played at least half the game. At the very least, half the game.
Which can be influenced by fake journalists like that Scooter Shooter guy or whatever his name was, and Brian. That messes everything up. It then becomes a creative vacuum, right? Because if such a thing is allowed to fester, it means that games won't be made in the future to inspire you or be loved as art. They will instead be driven by systems that are built around scoring well, which is then influenced by blatantly obvious artificial analysis instead. This would just lead to an industry already pretty much cooked to now think that these algorithms that are being pushed are...
Honestly, only AI that should be banned is Grammarly and anything like that. Like, we already have an illiteracy problem in the US and Grammarly isn't helping.
positive stuff that they want from their players, but that isn't what it actually is, because it's not what they really feel, because it's not real, and that could mess up things even more than it already is. Obviously, this isn't Capcom's fault or Resident Evil's. They just happened to be the game that was at the center of all of this due to the mere chance, I guess, of it happening. If not then someone else would have taken the spot instead, right? Either way, though, this is a really bad thing to see fester like this, because this would just create, I guess, how would I say this, an algorithm-esque echo chamber, if you will. All of these systems stealing from each other's reviews, generating impressions and summaries, publishing their analysis as if they were real, which then gets picked up by other rival systems. All of this recycling until eventually, the conversation and what's real or not around a game then becomes completely detached from what it really is. Sure, you might get frustrated because you probably want authentic information on a game. I don't blame you. But the data that would be flowing from this would end up saying something entirely different. And then the publishers, again, who were just obsessed with analytics, will just believe that those numbers are real over anything that you have to say to them today. If you think games feel manufactured now, imagine how bad it would get if all the information these types take in comes from people who don't even exist, like Brian Marigold. It becomes a slow replacement of authentic content, and that is really, really scary.
I think my generation was the last to have handwriting a prerequisite to graduating. I think my generation was the last one to actually have classes where they teach you fucking cursive.
That's already a problem, but the collapse would just be even further and faster. And remember, it's already next to impossible to make AAA publishers take those risky ideas with their core franchises, because they just kind of make the same games with the same formulas over and over because it works for them. That risk-averse mentality will become like adamantium levels of Unbreakable, dude. And then everything will just be designed for like engagement, and that's pretty much it. And then like when that even happens, right? The games that you'll be looking forward to, they're not going to feel alive. They're just going to feel manufactured. Way more than they usually do, which is kind of crazy to think, but that's what would happen here. Look, for decades, the concept of criticism, as flawed as it is, at least it comes from the lived-in human experience to a degree. Sure, we can all like argue about things. You do it, I do it, especially. Everyone on Twitter is like in a constant war zone of God knows what every single day too about something. But in that sea of toxicity where everyone is yelling, there needs to be something that we do remember, right? That all of that comes, no matter how misguided, from some sort of passion at its core. But if these systems replace the human conversation, then the future of not just gaming criticism, but real authentic speak between two humans gets that's often messy and emotional process, then it just gets replaced by sterile metrics instead, and we don't want that. Then everything becomes predictable, right? Synthetic even. The part that worries me though is that the publishers might actually like that better, because algorithms are likely easier to please than the real users. But if this continues the way that it is, rapidly evolving, then the conversation about games and movies, whatever it is, it no longer belongs to any one community. It'll just belong to these machines that interpret everything that they want to see and how they want to see fit and all that. And once that happens, dude, like the soul of gaming criticism, of like loving games, talking about them, just entertainment in general, it might as well as disappear completely. Look, again, right? I don't hate AI. I get why it exists. It can be useful, but this one example here in this very one specific like story, yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like this is crazy. It's all I gotta say. But I'm sure some would honestly prefer this, since let's be real, a lot of people in games today tend to review things based on their politics or their feelings over objective things in these games. It happens all the time. How many times have we seen games get lower scores because the reviewer wasn't happy with something a dev said or they don't agree with politically? It's never not annoying. Some may say an AI journalist who just gives you the information.
Yeah, see, when it comes to rating a game, it should be based purely on the game. You shouldn't lower the score just because you don't like what a dev said or what a voice actor said or any stupid shit like that outside of the game. You are reviewing the game. Only be criticizing the game. That's it. I guess I'm the youngest here. When I graduated, cursive wasn't a requirement, but writing 400 to 500 word essays were the norm. I'm still impressed at how well you were able to breeze through the Requiem.
With no BS attached might be better than the green-haired feminist who's yelling about the patriarchy, but I guess that depends on who you ask. Either way, this still confirms that the entire concept of the dead internet theory is not really a theory anymore, because we're living it right now, guys. There are people who don't exist everywhere. You likely argued with someone who doesn't have a physical body over something on Twitter once, and you didn't even know it. How many times have you watched a video and the person behind it isn't even real? Like, all of this and more is freaky. Like, the amount of times even I get accused of having an AI voice when I'm definitely not a robot myself is annoying, dude. Like, I'm a real dude, okay? Like, even in this video, there's like word mistakes that I say. I'm just gonna leave them in because, again, I'm human. What do you want me to do? If you don't believe me, go look up my shorts or anything else I've done. I promise I'm not a brain in like a giant machine living with other brains in some facility in a jar. As for Brian Marigold and that shooter scooter, whatever his name was, it looks like they might be out of a job at Video Gamer. But I don't feel bad because, after all, they never existed anyways. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know. Subscribe if you like to. Have a good day and always dig deeper, guys. Ask questions. That's the best way to do it. Thank you. See you next time.
Fun! Well, separating the art from the artist is a dying art, as now people hate you for who you spend time with, or even when you don't say the thing they want. Yeah, oh, he didn't say the thing. We're gonna hate him now. Oh, he said the thing. We're gonna love him now. It's so fucking stupid. Well, that is the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give a like and subscribe. I post videos 3 to 5 days a week. here. I also post videos over on my other channel for gaming as well, so please make sure to give that a look-see, see if you enjoy that as well. I also stream anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week as well. Links to all my social medias will be on my YouTube page. And with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.